Hello and welcome everyone to our Saturday stream. This is our Fantasy Grounds map and image creation, and I'm Josh. So thanks everyone for joining me here today. This stream is where we go over all of our art-related news, as well as tips and demonstrations on how to interact with the image creation system completely inside of Fantasy Grounds Unity. So if you guys ever have any questions or anything, I try to stream every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So feel free to pop in and ask me any questions that you might have. So what we're going to actually be going over today is this month's art pack release, which is a countryside art pack. It's got all kinds of cool new animated images in them. To take advantage of the new WebM support that we have inside of Fantasy Grounds. And what we're focusing on right now, what I'm focusing on is animated images that can be used to enhance already existing maps before we really dive into a lot of unique animated kind of stuff. If you ever notice that oftentimes animated maps that you might pick up will have very limited amount of animation that's kind of going on. So what I'm focusing on are those particular elements, things that we might be able to look at and experiment with and try to add that feeling of animation in our maps that, or focusing on those very specific images that really kind of bring a map to life. So why don't we jump right into this? Let me go over to our new art pack here. And here is a map I always, excuse me. I always try to make a map using just the images inside of the map pack as like a demonstration or like a starting point. So we can create an image record for this. Then let's have a little look at this. In this particular art pack, I've created some rather interesting ground textures, as well as some new like dead kind of trees, some more like rock elements, and some other kind of like building material and whatnot that you can use to create lots of interesting environments. And we're going to kind of go through all the different elements here, but before we get too far into it, let me just jump into the decorations here. And I want to show some of these animated elements that you guys can use on any map. So you can see that this map right here has it's completely static. There are no animated elements to it whatsoever. But what we can actually do is use some of these elements. So let's create a new painting layer here. And we can switch over to our stamp tool, and I'm going to grab something like these butterflies. And if we zoom in over here, you can see it's like this little element of butterflies as they kind of fly around and whatnot. And what we can actually do, and we make this larger or smaller, and well, I'm actually going to darken these up so that they can be seen a little bit better against the background here. But you can grab something like this, and we might want to stamp a couple of these to create like a little movement area. And you can see immediately how much that kind of adds to the movement of what's going on. And so you could use these types of things in every kind of scenario, right? We can drop this on any map and instantly kind of create movement. Okay, so we have a question here from Bangs Naughty Bits. With the new export feature, how does that work with the Smileworks Art Pack licensing? So you can create any image that you want to, and you can put those into. So the way that it works, as far as I'm aware, and if you want further clarification, I would definitely reach out to the support team because I'm not exactly sure. But in the past, the way that we've handled it is that if you make a conglomerate of the images, right? Like, so you take the images that we produce, you make your own unique map from that, then you can use that in your own like modules, for example, if you wanted to even export them onto the Forge. So with the actual export feature itself, I'm not exactly sure how they've changed the licensing in any sort of way. But yeah, I would reach out to the support and just have a general question about that. And I should probably know too, so I'll make sure I find out at this next week. And then we have some additional kind of elements here. So we have like some moving flowers and whatnot. And we could do exactly the same kind of thing here. Let's move this in, and we could, let's say, for example, maybe stamp a couple of these things around. And we have these instant kind of motion. So if you ever notice, and these are the kind of things that you can kind of start to pick up on when you're looking at animated maps and so on, is that you'll see that there's usually only a couple of key features that are a lot of like, yeah, I would assume so. The way that it's always worked before is that you could never just export all of the images and so on, right? Like in a module or whatever you happen to do it with, but you could export them as an image and then put them into your own modules and whatnot. So with the new feature, I'm assuming that it's similar. There is no control of the animation speed as of yet. So any of those types of features. And right now we only support looping animations as well. So not like single run animations, but that might change in the future, as well as being able to control the speed of the animation. So that might be something that's coming in the future. There has been talk about stuff like that. So we'll see how that goes. And if you guys ever have a specific thing that you are interested in seeing, especially like that, yeah, that would be cool. I agree. Make sure that you put it in the wish list, or if it's already there, just upvote it or vote for it, or whatever it is. Great. So, oh hey Drake. Yeah, it's completely possible in the. It's just figuring out how that's going to work in the UI and all of those things. So. As it sits right now, the way it works is it just loops any animation, and then it does it. So one of the other things that I have put together in this particular iPad, we have some other kind of moving flowers and whatnot that you can place around. Is also I have a moving bush here, but we also have some elements like this, and these. Are super cool. And what we can actually do with this is, and the reason why I made these in the way that they are, is we can make this a little bit more blend in with this tree here a little bit, is that we can now just kind of stamp around a couple of spots on here. We might want to change its color a little bit and the size. And here we have we've taken the static tree image, and now we've added some movement to the leaves themselves. So there's a whole bunch of new kind of additional elements that you're going to be able to use to enhance all of those pre-existing maps. And I think that one of the things that's going to be really great about going down this road is that you'll be able to take, or not just look for like animated maps in the future. You'll be able to find any map that you like and then enhance it in a lot of like cool animated kind of ways. Yeah, this is going to be the new art pack that's released this month. It'll probably be released in a week or two. Yeah, so this is the countryside map pack. Yes, that's right, Drake. Star Dragon. Yeah. So here we have these things, and we have another one that I created. This is another kind of leaf element And what I'm trying to do is to create these ones that are easily adaptable to almost any tree. So the colors are always going to be kind of light on them, but you should be able to control these colors very well. And we can even lower down the opacity if you want to make them a little bit more. And don't forget, we can control a lot of these elements as well. So you can change like the size and whatnot and get some motion going on inside of these elements. And so what we can actually do here is take any map that we've, even ones that we've created ourselves or anything that we've owned, and kind of doing it. So this particular art package has a few different elements in it. I have one of like falling leaves. And so we can use this in a couple of different ways too, right? We can always use this as our stamp tool, and you can get like these falling kind of leaves that are cascading. And again, we can make this a bit darker so that we can kind of see it on these elements. We can make them maybe a little bit more green. And you can do this as kind of like an overlay over the entire thing. So we could either stamp this, let's say we wanted to have some leaves kind of falling from some trees over here. But one of the really cool things that we can do with this is, let's move over into our fill elements. And I'm going to grab this, I'm going to drop this in as a fill. And I'm going to use my circle here, and then I can kind of draw out, oh, I don't want to do it as a stroke. I want to do it as a fill. And what I can actually do is draw out a section like this, right? But what we can do is we can now fade in these edges. So you can have this kind of like fading, at the kind of fade in and out as they cascade across, which I think is super cool. And if you wanted to do this on a large scale, so let me just jump in here, and I'll make a new painting layer in case we need to make some further adjustments. But I'll do something that's kind of large around the whole screen here. And again, let's jump over in here. We'll make these a little bit like these darker kind of greens. I'm going to make it a little bit more like this color. And here we have this kind of like natural kind of falling of these elements. We can move this around, and again, we can scale this, and we can even rotate it. So you can get it going in any direction that you really want to. And what we can do, again, is we can fade in those edges. So let's fade this in a bit, and you can get this nice, neat kind of transition. So adding all of these different elements to your maps, as you can see here, I just add a whole new layer of kind of immersiveness as this kind of stuff goes on. We might even want to make these a bit smaller. And we can also, if we want to, we can go into the Layers tab, and we can do all of our rotation here as well. So we could do something like this. Yes, tumbleweeds and things will be coming eventually for sure. So we have a bunch of stuff that you guys can use. Oh, I also did, let's delete this one, and we have a smoke one, which I'm super excited about. We can do all kinds of really cool stuff with this. One of the things that you can do, especially if you have many different kind of elements here, if you wanted to do. One of the really cool things that I really enjoy is that we're able to change the dynamics of this, right? So we can interact with this in lots of different ways. But let's say we wanted to do something that was producing some sort of smoke coming out of here. And sometimes this, I'm just going to close that and reopen it. Let's jump back over in here. And let's make this again like 5.5, a little bit shorter here. And if we wanted to do some different elements here, what we can do is we can actually like lower down the opacity of this, and we can change some sizes and whatnot. And we can start to create some really kind of cool effects as we start to build some of this stuff up. We might even want to make this a bit wider. Oh yeah, you could do it on top of torches. You could do it. I was thinking about maybe, like the alchemist vials and whatnot. You can have stuff kind of bubbling up out of it. All kinds of cool things. So yeah, lots and lots of cool stuff coming. But we're going to get in. We'll create our own map now with some of these new image elements. That's when I was testing it out. So let's go in here. We have our image creation area over here in case we want to make anything that we want to make. We can kind of delete what's in there currently. And now we can create a new item. And let's open this up. And we'll do this one. Our countryside area over here. Let's go into our fills. We got a bunch of new fills, and like I said, we have some neat, more detailed kind of ground elements. Yeah, there'll be fire and things coming along with some of the other art packs that I have planned for animated stuff. But let's jump over into here. I'm going to turn off my stroke. We're going to go into the rectangle, and I'm going to grab and drop this guy right in here. I'm going to make this 100 by 100, and I'm going to lower down the opacity of the grid system here. And we can make this pretty good sized. I'm going to hold down Control so I snap to the grid. And you can see what we have here is some little rocks and indents. Kind of grass patches and whatnot. Now, obviously you're going to see that this looks rather repeating. And so there's a couple of different ways that you can interact with that system and change it. The other one way is that you can create some additional kind of elements that you can just put right over the top. And you're going to want to go in and fade out those edges. This be something like this. And don't forget, you can grab these and kind of move them around. And so we're doing this all with the same art package here, right? So you can do a lot of minor augmentation of the same thing. And don't forget, you can also export this out now. So you could make your own elements that you're going to use over and over again. So you could spend some time and really create some nice, cool stuff. The one thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you leave, or you make sure that the edges are going to match up if you're going to create a fill. But if you're just going to create like a standard background that you want to use over and over again, you certainly can do that. Oh, let's see. We got a question here. Do you have any hints to fill an alchemist science guy's secret cave to make it feel lived in? So this is kind of where storytelling gets into the map creation stuff, right? Think about if you wanted to feel lived in it, and when I usually say that when I'm making this stuff, is it's like used, right? There is wear and tear. So textured stuff can work really well in there. So if you have like this natural kind of cavern, and you have all of these, because you get this really cool juxtaposition between the natural rock formations and whatnot, and then very scientific elements, right? Like super, well, it's like very designed, like vials and all of these other elements. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that whatever elements that you kind of have put into there, you think about all of the other stuff that might go on there, right? Like living quarters and whatnot. Are there books strewn about? What type of alchemist is this guy, right? Is he like this kind of like wacko who doesn't really care about things? Maybe there's like an area where there's like rotten food where he barely eats. It's that kind of stuff that I feel like makes it feel lived in, right? Maybe there's a couple of areas where there was like failed experiments. And you could do like scorched marks on some of the stone, all of that kind of stuff. And I find that really fun. If you want to do any sort of specific kind of stuff in here, we can kind of go over that. And then what I've also done in this one is I've created some standardized elements. I know that you guys sometimes want to create your maps much more easily and work easily. So these are the kinds of things where you can just kind of grab something like this and just stamp it in as well. Now you can build up and do a lot of other stuff, whichever way that you wish. But this will kind of move into those realms with you. So here you can just kind of, and one of the things, and this is one of the ways that I design it the way that I do, is I want to make sure that there's some elements here that you can kind of like overlay. So if you want to make them a little bit larger or whatnot, you can certainly do that. So I try to make the faded edges to be an appropriate size where you can interact with these together, something like this. Now, one of the things that you don't want to do is have a lot of like repeating elements like that. And then I also have one that is a little bit of an indentation. Now, this is kind of designed to be used at a lower opacity. And we can also change the color here a little bit to match up some of this stuff. So if we wanted to bring this in, do something like this. And what we can actually do is like instantly create a little bit of a divot here. You might want to flip that this way. And we can actually kind of go through and we'll use a bunch of this different stuff to kind of build up some of these areas. So again, I like to include some of these like wooden elements that you can kind of build whatever you want to with, but I've also done a complete building itself and some other little kind of stuff that you can kind of build around here. So the next thing I like to do, especially in this kind of stage, is to give it a little bit more character. And what I'll do is I'll move into kind of placing some of this stuff around. So we have these nice little, like these dead little elements here. And I like to layer these to be something like this. And we can make some of these a little bit smaller. And start to place some of this stuff just randomly about. I don't really have anything in particular in mind. And you can see that these already have their shadows kind of like put right in there. But we'll be enhancing that with a little bit more stuff as well. And we got some new bushes. And these ones, I kind of gave them a little bit more of a stylized shape here. So if I wanted to, I could come into here, right? And I could jump over, and if I wanted to create more shapes and whatnot, or add in some additional kind of elements, maybe what I would do is something like this. And then we could come down and export this. And I might do this as like a bush. We want to make sure that we do it as a PNG file. And then we can always come back into our, I do it into my campaign folder. And we're going to have to refresh this. But here we have the element that I just made. And now I have another one that is kind of set up with a little bit more complexity so that I can stamp these around a little bit more. One of the things that I like to do is when I'm using like a light ground element, we can kind of just drop these around here and there. Because I like to have much darker foliage. I feel as though that it really kind of lends itself well to that. And I'm just going to drag this down a little bit so we have a little bit more room. I'm going to grab some of these, this larger kind of like plant formation and drop a couple of these around as well for a little bit of variety. And the other thing that you might want to do, which is a really kind of fun way to interact with the system, is anywhere that you see some of this like repeating stuff, you can always use that as like your guide for where you're going to be placing some of these other elements, right? I think we'll save some of that stuff for right now. But what we can do is go in and we can add in some of this other like moving foliage and whatnot. And we're all doing this all in the same layer here. So if you see we move over, you can see that this is all of the elements that we have. Now we can kind of jump ahead if we want to. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to lower down the opacity of this a little bit. And I'm just going to put this. Sometimes this doesn't quite work the way that I expect it to. And all you have to do is close this down and then reopen it here. So let's delete that. So if you ever get the bug where you try to paint, and I notice that it only happens with animated elements. Sometimes you try to stamp it and you don't get the image itself. And you just have to reload the image workspace. So here we have, and this is going to add a little bit of like movement for us, like little flowers in our bushes here. Another thing that you can do, if you guys are unfamiliar with this, is that if you ever want to use one of the animated images and you don't want it to be animated, all you have to do is export it from here. And if you export it, what it will do is it'll take a little snapshot of it in that, and I'm going to just do this as flowers. And make sure we do it as a PNG. And if we go into our campaign folder and we refresh it, you'll see here it is as a static image. So make sure that you keep that in mind, that if you ever want a static image of something that that you've kind of created or something that you're using that is animated, you can always do that. I think I have, oh yeah, I've been working on doing some like lighting effects and whatnot as well. So we'll have lots of that kind of stuff coming in the future. So let's go back into our countryside art back here. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into my decorations here. And I'm going to grab one of these. I think I'm actually going to grab this one. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to darken this up so it kind of fits in with some of these other elements here. And add a little bit more motion. I'm going to keep these a little bit lighter than the other elements, so that they stand out a little bit, even from a little bit of a distance. And we can change their size, and we can also change any of these elements too. So if we want to make something squatter or more elongated and whatnot, we can kind of do that. Yeah, so here we have added some nice little elements that are kind of moving around on our map. You cannot export animated maps. I mean, you can export them, but they will only export as a single image, right? So basically, what it's going to do is going to take a snapshot of whenever you save it, and it'll be exactly as it was when you went to export it. So you can take an animated image and make it a static image. But currently we have no way of exporting an animated format. But again, that may come in the future. Now I'm going to create a new painting layer. So we have our basic kind of background here pretty well. I'm going to build like a little structure over here. And I'm just going to hold down Control to kind of snap it to the grid. And I'm just going to build like this little platform here. And we'll do something like this. So we have this nice little platform. And then I'm going to use some of these other elements to build a constructed piece here. So, well, actually, maybe we'll break this up into 2 different layers here. And I'll do something like this. It's like a little entrance area. And then we can go in into some of our new fills here. And here, I think I'm just going to stamp it though. Well, no, let's do a fill element here. And I'll just kind of bring this out like this. And we'll move this so it makes a little bit more sense. And then this way I can kind of angle this a little. Now you can, like I said, you can kind of come in here and do all the kind of cool stuff with this. So if I wanted to, You know, I could. It's going to erase that thing underneath, but we'll put it in. But you could you know, make this seem a little bit more varied. Do some like indents in particular areas. Might want to pull this like over here. Those are a little bit too far in. We should get rid of that stuff. We might even want to move all of this stuff a little bit. Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah, so what we can actually do, let's go back in and go back to our decorations here. We'll create another painting layer right there. And you can see we can kind of just stamp this right back in there and then grab this. And begin to build our little building here. We could even come in and put some of this stuff. We might even want to put like this little lantern hanging from it. And maybe what we can do is we can go into another art pack and grab like a chimney. I think we'll grab this. This is from Medieval Buildings, so maybe we'll do one of these like something that's going to show up a little bit better. Make sure we put it on this area. And then when we can come back into our countryside, we can go into our little smoke area over here. And you can see that this not that one. We want to do this one. We might even want to lower down our opacity a little bit, and we can extend this out. But we can also just leave the single one as well, something like this. I think on this layer as well, we can start to add in some trees and whatnot. Let's do some of these like more dead kind of trees. Yeah, I think we all miss Dave, actually. He was a great guy. And then on top of that stuff, we can add in some of these other new kind of tree elements. And I like to make these a little bit more complex. I kind of build them up. And actually, you know what we should do is let's make these a little bit darker as well. Just so that we have a little bit more contrast with some of the other elements here. But we can make them a little bit lighter so that if we have some interactions like this, you know, they kind of just go right over. Again, we'll make it a little bit darker. And I'm just going to minimize this one so we don't really need it in the way right now. Let's actually expand this out. And I think we'll go down on this layer. I'll grab a couple of these like rocks. And these ones are quite a bit darker than the other ones. But I'm going to put some kind of like this. And we could do a couple of ones that are, maybe it's like made of a different material here. And I might grab one of these too, and we can drop this down in like underneath some of these trees. Yeah, cool. We can actually go in and go on to maybe this underneath this tree layer where we have some of this stuff, and maybe we'll grab some of these leaves and we can have some of this kind of debris. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to darken this up. I'm going to kind of get it to be closer to the color of the leaves or the elements like this. And what we can do is maybe have some of this kind of stuff. We should probably have it going in the same direction as our winds from the smoke. So we could just kind of stamp something like this, and then I'm going to lower down the opacity here. We can make it a bit smaller, kind of go out a little bit, so you get a nice kind of feeling of that transition. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do it on all of them, but let's do it on a couple. And we can grab some of these like butterflies, and we'll put these down here, and we can do some of these flying around some of these bushes. Very cool. Now we can start to add in all of our shadows and all of those other elements. I think what we'll do actually is let's grab, well, I could drop a couple of these flowers down too. These are just kind of like little moving flowers on the ground. Well, I think that we're good actually with these ones. Those are better for layering over grass. But I think what we'll do is we'll add in like a little path. So I'm just going to type in path brush. Maybe trail would be better. Yeah, we'll grab something like this, I think. This should work pretty well. And we can come back over into here, and I think I'll grab this and just drag it, drop it down here. I'm going to lower down its opacity. I think we should do it on this. I think we'll actually lower down its opacity a bit more. We might even want to do one from like here. And then we can come in and make any sort of adjustments we want to make that kind of blend in together a little bit better. Now let's go, I'm going to create a new painting layer, and I'm going to grab this. We want to make sure that we're in our stamp tool. And I'm going to lower down this. I'm going to make it a little bit blue. And so we're going to lower down its opacity quite a lot here. And I'm going to start to do some generalized kind of shadows. We might even want to lower our opacity a little bit more, coming off some of these trees. We should probably go back and rename our layers so that we know what's kind of going on. We'll do some large ones from our building here. I'm going to come in, I'm going to do some additional ones on some of these rocks. And we'll have to do some for these rocks as well. I'm going to make this a bit oblong. And again, I'll come in and do some a little bit closer ones. And we're going to want to do another one like down here, I think. What we're going to do with this one is have some stuff that kind of underneath some of these other elements here. Let's make this round once again. We can do this stuff. here. I think what we'll do is here we have that interior stuff, but here, so let's do a little bit here as well. This is going to help create some of that that feeling of depth. And what we want to do is come into here and let's go back up to this one. I'm going to make this even more transparent. I'm going to do some really large elements. And this is what makes it feel as though that the land isn't completely flat, right? You see how it already kind of makes it feel as though that there is some indentation to the land. And now what we can actually do is come in and do some highlights as well. And we can do this exactly the same way. We can go with the this kind of painting style, or we can use an effects layer. So we can open up our effects tab here, and we're going to go down to our adjust colors. And to start, I'm just going to move it the brightness to the right a little, and then I'm going to create a mask. And I can come in here and I can add these nice little highlight areas, and we can blur that out some. We might want to increase the green a little and the red, and that's going to make it a little bit more on the yellow side. And we can even do this in some large areas here. But you see, if we do it in a large area, we want to make sure that it's much more subtle. So, but I like to do two different ones like this, and we'll make this 55 across the board here. So I'm going to remove this one. You might even want to make that a lot less blurry. But we can do like some nice ones like on the edges of these, or maybe on the front of this. So you can see you can really get in here and start to do some pretty crazy amounts of detail in some of this stuff. I think that we'll keep this one for these like strong kind of speculars. Let's lower this down a little bit though. Yeah, something like that. And then we can create another effects layer. And this time we're going to make it a lot less, just much more mild. So let's bring this up to like 52. And again, we'll add a mask. And then here, let's go here, get rid of that. We can begin to adjust some of these things that are gonna, something like 52 maybe. For these nice little subtleties. Find our balance here for what we're trying to achieve. And I like to use this for doing like a lot more subtlety from the sun. And you can see how this is really starting to change the dynamic of our ground itself, right? Like we're getting these nice areas where the sun kind of picks up on it. And then we have these like shadowed areas. So it feels as though that we have some indents and some protrusions. And then we can use it on our trees as well. We get some nice little highlights. Now, if you export this, any of the effects layers are not going to affect it, right? So the effects layers themselves do not export. Because these are like a post-processing effect and they happen after the fact. Now, if you wanted to, you could even come in here. You know what? I wonder, let me just think about this for a second. If we wanted to, I bet, let's go back in here. Let's make this a stamp. Yeah, we could do all kinds of cool stuff with this. Lots of cool stuff, now that I just think about it. You could have layers of fire progression in a build. Yep, you totally could do that. Yeah, you could do any number of different overlays and whatnot. And boom, we've instantly kind of created a nice little scene here. It took us very little time. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good looking map. Yes, animated assets now. Yes, so this is this month's art release. It's not out yet, but it will be. Last month, the art pack was Grasslands. And inside of Grasslands, there are animated things as well. So like waves. Most of the ones in Grasslands are centered around water. There's like a water overlay that you can put over stuff. And in the decorations themselves, it's like birds flying around. And then there's also animated fish and waves for like a coastline. And then so this month there'll be more animated stuff. Right now I'm focusing on animated assets that will overlay and enhance pre-existing static images. So each map pack that comes out every month, we're going to be doing more and more of these. So I think in this particular art pack, I've done like 7 animated images. Oh yeah, awesome. So like in this one, we have a lot of like plant overlays and whatnot, which will enhance. So let's say you have a nice image, like a map that you're already using. You can just stamp on top of that some of these animated leaves or some butterflies or some some flowers and whatnot kind of moving around and create it so that it seems as though that it's animated, the entire map. Even though what you've done is you've only just placed a few animated images over the top. So it should work out really well. Great. So I'm going to take a short break here. And then when we come back, we'll build a new map. Now, it doesn't have to be inside of this this new art package, but we'll do something else. So if you guys have any suggestions about something that you'd like to see us create, I also like to emphasize the use of the new export feature so that we can create our own image conglomerates and images from scratch, export those, and then use them in our map systems as well. Mostly they are, but there's definitely a lot of modern industrial. I have a whole bunch of modern maps. There's some sci-fi ones as well, map packs to build your own stuff, and we've done a bunch of stuff on here as well in that kind of area. I think that if we look, so we have like a. There's post-apocalyptic ones, industrial areas. You could do things like this with lots of like machinery and whatnot. I think that there are a few. That was one that we did a while ago. Post-apocalyptic. Oh, we did like a sci-fi street with some like neon signs and whatnot. I think that there's some missing elements here that we had going on. But yeah, there's all of the stuff that you could possibly need to build pretty much anything that you'd like. Oh, thanks, Oliver. Yeah, these are all built right inside of Fantasy Grounds. So anything that you, with the art subscription, we have there's tens of thousands of images, so you have access to all of them. Lots and lots of tools. Okay, great. I'm going to take a really short break here, and then when I come back, we can build whatever you guys want. So think about something that you'd like for us to make, and then we'll spend the rest of the time today doing that. Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for hanging out, and I'll be right back. All right, we're back. Got my beverages all freshened up and ready to go. So you guys have any suggestions on what we should build next? We can close that down. Should we do, let's break it down here. Should we do interior or exterior? Sure, we can do an interior. What type of interior should it be? Should it be a constructed thing like made, or should it be more of a natural thing like a cavern or? And I'll just create a new image element here. Get us started here a little bit. What do you guys think? Should we do like a modern nightclub or an Arctic fantasy cave? Well, we could do either. We could do the Arctic cave would probably go a little bit faster. The modern nightclub would probably spill into next week. But I'm totally down to doing whatever. There's some cool stuff that we could kind of do with both. Oh, thanks. So what do you guys think? What do you think we should do? Should we do like a modern nightclub? I wouldn't even do modern. Maybe I would do even a little bit futuristic if we did it. Add some different elements. Let's clean this up a little bit. Yeah, let's do that. I'm actually going to do this one. Let's start off with our floor here. And I think we'll do, what kind of floor do you think that this place would have? Do you think it would be like, we could make a disco ball for sure. I'm just going to type in floor here. We could do like a tiled floor, but I think it would be more industrial than that. Don't you guys think? Maybe concrete even. Yeah, like an industrial place. So let's do that. Let's do like concrete. think we'll go with this one. We might do, yeah, let's keep it pretty centralized here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to turn off my stroke. I'm going to go over to my fill area, and I'm going to drag and drop this in here. Now I'm thinking that we can kind of make it, I'm going to actually hold down control to snap to the grid here. But I'm thinking we're going to make it like an interesting shape here. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we can move over to here. And maybe we'll make it like this shape. We're a little off here, huh? Let's see. I think we're supposed to be there. No. Where have I gone wrong here? This is there. So this is supposed to be like that. Is that correct? Oh, let me look at this the right way. I guess it doesn't really matter if we're, yeah, it's there. This is off here. It's got this. The problem is it's here. Yeah, that looks good. And now I'm going to move over into here. I'm actually going to rotate this a little bit. So we have some more interesting kind of shape here. And what I'm thinking is what we'll do is we could have some sort of like stage on one side of this. Yeah, it's easier to clean, that's for sure. Just hose it down. And maybe what we can do is like some like raised elements, do some sort of interesting thing kind of in the middle, and build up some of the other areas here, right? We'll have to have like a bar. Maybe we'll do like a bar on either side with a stage up here or something. You know, anything along those lines would work really well. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do a couple of different like floor elements. We don't want anything like that. But maybe some sort of like industrialized floor. I think if we go into the industrial, maybe the third one? No. Maybe it's in the sci-fi elements. I have to remember where. I think we have some, yeah, like this kind of stuff. I think what we can do is now I'm going to make this we can adjust this again in a minute. Let's get it roughly out here. You know what I should do? Hold on. Let's remove that. Let's go back into here. And now let's go to our brushes. Let's put a stroke on the outside of this. Maybe we'll do something like this. So we'll have like this, like edge to it. And we'll have to move this in. Let's see here. I think that this is a little bit off here. Let's turn that back on. That's a little bit wonky. I think we move this down here and we move this up there. We make these make this tighter in the middle. And then we can come into our fill area over here and line this up a little bit better. Like this. Yeah, I kind of like that shape. It adds some interesting kind of dynamics to the outside. And if we have to adjust it later, we can certainly do it. The next thing we'll do is we'll start to build our like platform up here, this like stage area. I think if we go into, we do some more of the modern industrial stuff. We have some of these like concrete kind of brushes. Maybe we'll do like a little bit of a darker one, but one with an angle. Like this. And here is the same concrete as before. So yeah, why don't we do that? We can flip back to our fill element. And I'm going to make the it's a little bit smaller here. And what we'll actually do is, let's go here. I'm going to click this and I'm going to reverse the stroke so that this is kind of like on the outside. And we can snap this to kind of fit it into place here a little bit. And we can use, we should do like some steps. We can do all kinds of cool like piping and stuff around. Let's. I'm just going to type in a search for step or stairs. Oh, hey, Evo. Yeah, we can use something like this, I think. And we can jump over into our stamp tool. Just grab something like this. What we'll do is, again, is I'm going to hold down Control so it snaps into place here. Yeah. Now what we can do is I'm going to go back into here again. I will make this a bit smaller. I'm going to flip it so it's on the outside here. And again, what I'll do is I'm going to hold down Control and we'll pull out like a bar on either side here. I'm going to do this here because I can just grab it, and so we'll have like whoever is behind and whatnot doing this. And then I can just grab this and angle this like this. And we're going to keep this kind of symmetrical for right now, but then we're going to build some additional kind of elements as we go on. And we'll do our wall over the top of it on the outside here. Also, if you guys have any elements you want to throw into this, just let me know. And we can totally like work into it. Do you think that there'd be like graffiti and stuff around? Maybe like things painted on the floor and whatnot? So the next thing we do, when we have these separated into these two layers, which is great, right? We have this one and then this one. So we can kind of do, oh yeah, D20 shaped disco ball. That'd be great. Yeah, graffiti might be cool. And I can show you guys how easy it is that you can kind of do something like that. If you don't have a specific image, we can make our own, and we can do that just with like the painting tools. And we can actually, if we want to do it to be used later over again, we can kind of do that. But I think what we'll do is let's add some kind of like random. Let's see here. We're going to do a pipe brush, not crush. And so some of this kind of stuff we can begin to like build out and around. So if we come back over into here, we want to make sure we turn our fill off. And in our stroke over here, we can grab something like this. And now what I like to do is I'm going to create another painting layer. I'm going to drop this in between, right? And we should put this on the stage layer. And this is our floor. And so here, what we can actually do is we could have some things like coming out like in this direction and maybe following along here and something like that. I think what I'll do is I'll actually move it in a little bit. So we could do it like here. Maybe something like this. We can make a little bit smaller ones, and we can layer a couple, you know, like here. I think we want to make sure that this is a little bit more even. And let's grab maybe something different as well. Yeah, maybe something like that. And if you hold down Shift, you can snap to 45 and 90-degree angles. Can make this stuff a lot easier to kind of do. I think we'll do that. And then we want to make sure that we have an end cap selected. And then I'll do a smaller one. And I think what we'll do is we'll just have it a little bit further out. And then I'm going to angle it into that like that. So we get that real industrial kind of feel. Yeah, right? Never have too much piping. And then we'll do something different on the other side. This is where we'll start to create a little bit of a separation between the two elements, you know? Yeah, maybe we'll use like something like this. So here we have like ventilation or something. Because if we go into that, I think that was the industrial art package. Modern industrial. Where we have a lot of these like, I think it might be the second one. Yeah, we have a lot of these kind of elements. So what we can do is we can grab something like this. Oh, we don't want it as a stroke. We want it here. That's why I couldn't rotate it. And we have some that are kind of like these like end cap kind of pieces. Got to have some tripping hazards, right? Yeah, I think that's looking pretty cool. And then what we can do you guys think that there will be like seating areas, like maybe like along here? We could do like some stools or something. And this is like a modern kind of thing. Do you think that would be just like a drink dispensary system? Or do you think that there would still be like bartenders? Probably still have bartenders, right? And we'll have there'll probably be a DJ, don't you think? So what we can do is set up like a DJ station up here. And if we go into the sci-fi, we have some of these cool control elements that we can kind of make into we can make our makeshift Yeah, we can do like, let's go to our stage and maybe we'll do like some cables and whatnot. DJ in a cage. Yeah, we could use some of this kind of stuff. Maybe we should make another painting layer for this. Hmm. Maybe what we do is, yeah, maybe what we do is something like that. But we'll bring this. Yeah, that can be our setup here. I think something like that will work okay. And what I'll actually do is let's change this a little bit. Let's make this yeah, more like that. So it's kind of like at an angle here. And we can build some stuff that's going to look like we might even want to change its color actually. Inside the cage. Yeah, and I think what we'll do is, because this is all here, I think we should do another kind of element because I want to be able to put some stuff under it as well. That might look do you think that looks a little bit too sci-fi compared to everything else? Maybe we should do it with more with like a retro looking control panel. Yeah, I think that looks better. We might even make like a cool little thing. Like this. if that's the case, we might want to change this. We'll make this a little bit different, right? So if we come back into here, you might want to we might even come up with something different to put there, actually. We could probably go in, and if we wanted to do a more rounded element there, now let's go back here. Maybe we'll make this a bit smaller then. And what we can do is it's a little bit wonky, huh? Let's try that again. Except I think I'll do it this way. I think that's even worse. Yeah, let's try something different. I bet I have some rounded elements. Let's see, if we go back into those. Oh, I know. If we go into the spaceship stuff. We have some rounded stuff in here. I know it. Yeah, so what we can actually do, and here's a nice little trick, is if we go into the fill, we can grab something like this, and we can grab and drag out whatever section that we want, something like that. And this is obviously much too large. So what we're going to do is hold down Control, scale this down. Be something like that. Might be a little bit too big. Yeah, we can do something like this. That's going to work pretty well. And we'll have to just make sure that we remove any of those other little bits that we don't want. We'll put something like that. And maybe we'll change its color. We'll match it to this a little bit, so we can. Yeah, something like this. Or we could even. That's a little bit too red. Yeah, like that. And if we want to, we can come back in here. Let's turn off our fill and go into our stroke. And I'm going to grab the same color just to kind of finalize that. You can see we got a little edge over there we'll take care of. Then we can do this. Yeah, that works much better. Now we're going to want to move it a little bit though. Right, we want it to be lined up a little bit better here. Yeah, nice. That'll be good enough. And we'll have, we can do like some other bits of equipment up here. Let's see, let's go back into the industrial art pack here. I think this one has a bunch of, this is more containers and whatnot, but we have like a bunch of these like machine kind of parts. So we can kind of build our own little thing here. There's other machine parts in some of the other ones as well. I think we'll grab some of those. Like some like pipe conglomerates like this. move this over like that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I guess we can do one that's like straight up and down, actually. Put it right on here. Adding to the whole we get some wires here that we can use. So we can go back over to here and let's I think we'll do this one. Then we can do like a little some like hoses and stuff. And I bet we could do like a little because we can do like lights all along it as well. I think I'll use this gauge as like a little like housing element that's going to kind of go into. And we might go grab one of these and put it underneath over here. Maybe even keep everything on this side. So like these kind of like lights here, what we can do is let's go back into here. And we can put them along the front here a little bit. Maybe something like this. Let's make them a bit smaller. Yeah, like that. Let's look for some railings, I think, as well. We can kind of use something like this, or we could do some of these more like industrial kind of stuff. But I'll grab something like this, I think, for the steps. I think we'll do it on this level. Maybe something like this would work good for the like up along here. And what we'll do is we'll make it a little bit more angled. I think we'll make it a little bit shorter too. Just smaller in general. Like that. So we'll do like 1.3. And I'm just going to grab all of these. We'll just kind of, whoop. Let's just move, well, I don't want to do the whole thing there. Let's move it over a little bit. Yeah, now we're starting to get some really good elements here, I think. So let's create some graffiti elements. I think that would be really fun. Now I'm going to show you guys a couple of ways that we can kind of do this. I'm not going to do any sort of like specific stuff, right? We're going to, well, what I mean is I'm going to do like generalized, just like shapes and stuff. And we're going to do it in white so we can adjust the colors after the fact. And we're going to actually make them in over here. So we're going to come into here. Now let's delete this layer, make a new one. And we can go over to our stroke here. And I'm going to make it white. So we're going to increase all of these. So we can just do it with this if we want to. If we want to make it so it seems like scuffed up, I do have some ones in the regional map pack. So if we go to the regional map pack, in our brushes, there's a lot of these like line elements, and these for like borders and whatnot. And you can see that they have like some scuffed elements to them. These are a little bit like dashed and dotted lines, however, but you could still probably use something like that. Let's see, we got a question. Hey, FGA. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so yeah, we'll definitely do some texture stuff and layer over the top. We can do cracks. We can do all that stuff for sure. So I'm going to make this a bit bigger because we're going to actually build it out here, and then we're going to export this, and then we can kind of create whatever we want here. So I'm just going to do like some random kind of like symbols and whatnot, just to kind of show you guys what you can actually kind of do here. So the first thing we'll do is let's make like an ellipse. We can go in here, and I'm just going to maybe like delete a part of it. And then from here, we can maybe like draw something out. And then it's a little bit hard to see. So like where our things are. So you can just kind of select all of them, and then you'll see the one that you want to actually implement here. So like as you can see here, what I can actually do is kind of move this in. We'll kind of line this up. We're just going to make some like random kind of shapes here. Maybe we'll do something like this. This is where I kind of experiment and see what I like and how it works. You can also snap to the grid if you want to, so to make sure that you maintain some consistency. I think what we'll do is we'll just delete those and we'll and then we'll do like, let's do like a line coming out of here as well. We can make some smaller elements. Yeah, so we make like a weird symbol, something like this. Jay was here, yeah. Yeah, we can add in some kind of cool ways to do that as well. And so here we have this like random kind of like strange symbol that we've made. So now we're going to go to export. And we'll just call this, I'll just put it in as a symbol. And we can also make sure that we do it as a PNG. We're going to save that. Coming into our assets, I'm saving all of mine to the campaign folder, but you can choose wherever you'd like to put it. And we'll just minimize this for right now. If I refresh this, here's that image that I just created. I can go over into my stamp tool. You can see it's much larger than I need, but I can move it down. Now what I can do is let's go into our floor here, and I can make this any color that I want to, right? So what I can actually do is, let's say we want to make it like red, but I'm going to make it a little bit like darker. I'm also going to lower down its opacity. But if you wanted to do something, add in some neat kind of cool stuff with it, right? What we can actually do is, let me increase the opacity here, and I can bring it all the way down to black. We can do something like this, and then we can bring it all the way up to white, and I can just put it offset a little bit, something like that. Or maybe we want to do it like kind of red like that, but that's a little bit too bright, so maybe we'll do it. Actually, you know what? Let's do it like a little bit like this kind of color. And I'll do it just a little bit. So boom, we have like a little bit of a drop shadow. Now I could also do that, the same kind of thing in here now, right? So I could make it already like this. So if I wanted to, and this is the power of this new kind of system, right? So let's lower it. Let's go back over here. So now what I can actually do is I could bring this in, and I can do the same thing. So I could make this black, and then I could make it white, and then I can line this up, to make it a little bit of a drop shadow. Now I can export this again. And even if I wanted to, right, I could overwrite the one that I just made if I wanted to. But I'm going to save this one as simple 2. And now when I come back over here, now when I refresh this, you'll see I have a new one, and this has got the drop shadow already put right into it. So here it is. Now if I wanted to, I can come back in here. Let's remove these. And so now what I can actually do is just adjust these colors. I can even lower down the opacity so it feels like it's a little bit more like painted on. Oh, very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I would love to see your stuff sometime. And so here, now you can start to see, like anytime that you need something for your creations, you can go in and do that. Now to make this kind of look scuffed up and whatnot, there's a couple of different ways that we can kind of do that. One is we could, so we know what we have for the background here, right? Like this concrete. So let's go back into here. Let's delete this and let's create a new painting layer. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the concrete element that we're using here. I believe it's this one. Is it that one? I think so. Yeah, it's that one. So now what I can do is let's go back over into, let's do here. Let's turn off our stroke and I'll grab this and put it in here. And maybe what I'll do is drag out a section of concrete. We'll do this one a lot smaller. I'm going to come in here. We can fade out that edge a little bit. I'm going to make this shape a little bit different here. Maybe we'll delete some of these that we don't need. And having some of these little bit of stuff around the edges is going to be fine. We can fade this in as much as we want to make this, or to have it as, but maybe we'll do something like this, right? And now when we export this as a PNG, what we can actually do, and here again, we'll go back up into our campaign file here and refresh this, is now I have a brush that I can kind of stamp over. I'm going to lower down my opacity here a little bit. You can see it's got a little bit of a weirdness on the edge on the outside. So what I would probably do, which I think that it's actually from the dark background. So I'd probably want to change the theme that I'm using to doing it this way. But what I can actually, I don't want to do that. I can make this smaller. But what I can actually do is let's make the edges a little bit. We probably want it to be like these random kind of shapes anyway. And we'll export it. We'll replace the one that we already did. We'll refresh, and there we have it already done. I can lower down my opacity if I want to, and kind of stamp in some broken up edges. make some bits seem a little bit faded. Oh yeah, the export functionality is huge. You can see we can get some kind of like broken up areas there. Yeah, so if we're going to do like cracks and stuff, right, we actually have like a crack brush and crack elements as well. So if we wanted to, we could bring this in and I'll lower down the opacity a little bit. And we could actually just like paint out cracks. If we wanted to. And then we can use some of this like stamped elements as well. Again, we don't want to do it in a stroke. We want to do it here. I think we'll change that. Move that right there. So yeah, you can totally come in and do all of this stuff. And we could even, maybe we'll delete this section, but we'll keep a couple on either side here. The crack pack. For sure. Yeah. So next, what we can do, I think we have only a limited amount of time left here. So let's add in some shadows and whatnot. And then, well, actually, before we do any of that stuff, let's create one more layer, and this is going to be our wall around the outside. So I'll find like a nice wall brush. Nope, we don't want to do anything like that. We have a lot. Let's just go into the industrial art package, the first one. And there's a bunch of like concrete kind of brushes, tubes. Yeah, maybe we'll do something like this. And And so one of the things that you guys can do, if you're unaware of it, is, well, this one's a little bit too much of an angle. Let's, yeah, we'll do this. So if you guys are unfamiliar with this, you can connect anything that you want to. I'm actually going to be using the line. I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to hold down Control, and I'm just going to snap, and I'm going to be coming out at a little bit of an angle here, or a little bit on the outside. And we can adjust where this kind of falls here. And now I'm going to hold down Shift and double click. Oh, it should have connected. But we can connect it manually right there. And then here we can make any sort of adjustments that we want. I think what we'll do is, it might be easier just to adjust the floor or whatnot. We can bring this up. We just bring it in, something like this. Or we might actually want to do this below the floor so that, no, I think we should keep it above. We might want to readjust. Maybe I'll do a different wall here, actually. Or we could just make it smaller and do it right on the, and see, this is why we would want to kind of do it starting in the middle so that we can connect it properly. And we can actually leave that open for like a door, an entrance. Perfect. And now let's build out some of our shadow areas and whatnot. Also, if you guys have any questions or if there's anything that I did that you're not exactly sure how I did it, make sure you let me know as well. I'm going to make this all the way down, and we'll make a new painting layer for this. And I'm going to do this the same way. And I'm going to lower the opacity. And I'm going to drop this down in underneath my wall, I think, like this. And this will give us a nice little like gradient around the outside. Yeah, we could put it here as well. And one of the cool things about this is having it on its own layer at the moment is that we can actually adjust the size of it. So if we want to bring it in a little bit, we can. And then we could actually, if we wanted to, shrink it down a little bit and do another pass here. giving us a little bit more of a gradient there. I think at that point, what we can actually do is kind of come in and lower down our opacity a little bit more. But you can see what a nice like little addition that makes, bring that in. So from here, what I can do is I'll grab this guy. And again, we'll make this a little bit darker. We don't have to make it quite because we're adjusting on the layer level our opacity. So we can come in here and maybe make this something like that. And what we can do is kind of do some of these shadows on the edges. And we can kind of come in here, do some of these like regular ambient kind of shadows off of all this stuff. And again, maybe I'll make this like very oblong, and I'll do a couple off the back side here. Yeah, I like it too, Mossy. I think it's a huge kind of thing. Now, normally I would do a little bit right here as well, but we're going to do our light source coming off of there. So now let's do a little bit of like lighting, and then we'll continue this next week too. We'll finish this all up and do some cool stuff and put all of our like incidentals and whatnot along the bar, and we might even create some more like graffiti pieces, because that kind of stuff I think is really fun. But let's do a little bit of the lighting before I have to head out, and we can do like some cool kind of stuff with that, and maybe do some different lights around. So we're going to go into our play tab over here. We can turn on our lighting system. Because we don't have any lights set up, one of the things that I like to do at this moment is I will turn on my ambient light. And with the ambient light on, we can just kind of make it something that will just give us a little bit, and we can turn this off later, or we can continue to use it. But let's actually make it a little bit cooler in here, the light. And this will give us a good frame of reference for as we begin to create. Now we can go into our Add Lights tab. And what I like to do is I'll add like one light, and then I will begin to adjust that one, and then I'll duplicate those settings and kind of go from there. So let's go over to our light that we just kind of dropped in here. And we're going to make this quite a bit smaller, right? So maybe like 1 with dim coming out, maybe like 3. And I'm going to increase the fall off here a bit. I want the kind of a smoother kind of transition. We're going to make this even smaller. Let's do like 0.5 and make this like 2, because these are going to be our little lights that are kind of coming off from here. And I want these to be more accented. So we'll just have this like nice little element here. So basically this is what we're going to be setting up. As far as like the color goes, maybe we'll make it a little bit more similar to the color that we have now. So I'm going to copy this. And then we go back over here. So we got like 0.5. We're going to make this 100 and 100. Let's do this. And then I think the dim is at 2. So we just make this 2. Now, because all of these are in the same realm here, what I can do is I can select all of them at once. And from this, I can adjust them all at the same time, right? So we can do something like that. And this will adjust, update all of them. And we might even want to do like 0.2 for for the actual size of the light. And I'll move these and line them up a little bit more. But what we can actually do is like some really cool kind of stuff like this, right? Now if we come back into here, and then maybe we'll make this one a little bit more like green, and then we can do like some cool kind of like lights maybe coming off from here. We can start to mix some of our color elements. And you can see if I come back over here and I turn this off, it's going to be drastically different. I like to keep a certain amount of ambient light throughout the entire place. Especially it's going to be something like this. We want to have at least a little bit of ambient light. So we're just using these other light sources as accents, right? We're bringing things up. I think we'll make this a little bit more yellow, and we might do like some along here. And we might even want to increase some of this stuff. So maybe we'll do one of these in each of the corners. And we can add in a line of sight as well. And then we'll do like some like flashing, blinking kind of lights in the middle as well. Let's do some here. And so from these ones, I think what we'll do is let's select all of these. I'm holding down Shift and clicking on these. And here, let's increase the size of these, at least the dim. Let's do something like that. Yeah, that's cool, right? That's starting to feel a lot more like the way that these things would kind of interact. And then in the center, because we'll build like a disco ball next time, and we'll do all kinds of really cool stuff. Maybe we'll actually do like some strings of lights hanging around and whatnot. But from here, what we can actually do is, and we're putting all of these on this same layer with our shadows. So from here, what we can actually do is let's go into our lights here. And again, maybe we'll make this one something like this. And this is all adjustable later, right? And we can go into, we have flash, we have flicker, and pulse. And so I don't know if you guys know the difference between these. So here is what flash is like. And let's increase the size of this one. Let's do something like 2 and 5. We'll put that right in the middle. So flash is basically, this is just kind of goes flash, it's in and out. And pulse does this thing where it kind of comes in and out. So a cool thing that I like to do in these scenarios is let's move this down. I'm going to come back over into here. So we have pulse, we have 2, and we have 5. And I'm going to change this to something like 46. It's the same color. So now we get a random kind of element where it kind of comes in and out a little bit more. I mean, it's still, and we could even change this one to a flash. Or we should grab one of these and make it into a flash. So you get the interaction is going to be a little bit different. So you can make some really cool kind of different lighting effects that kind of go by using a combination of different elements. And you can come up with some really cool kind of stuff. And then just by adjusting like the speed of each individual element, you can drastically change kind of how they all interact, right? And you can layer a few of them in here, right? So we could do another one. Oh yeah, yeah. It works really, really well. You can do lots of cool kind of stuff with it that way. So yeah, maybe that'll help you in the future do some different kind of cool stuff. And now what we can actually do, you can do a lot of fun kind of elements, is if we wanted to, if you have like animated effects and whatnot. So I think it's actually in the data folder, and these will be things that will be coming out eventually. But like some cool kind of like lighting elements. And I haven't really figured out how to get these all to work completely properly yet, but we could. Maybe we'll make it like this. These are just experimental. What I'd actually probably do is let's turn the stroke off. Let's add it in. Something like this. Let's actually do it on a different layer so we have a little bit more control. And I would fade in the edges here a little bit. So you could do some really cool stuff with a combination of those. Yeah, there should be a lot of cool stuff coming your guys' way. And you can also add in, if you wanted to add in like an effects layer. One of the things that I like to do to really enhance like color elements, especially if you want to keep it really intensify the light in a particular area, you can do this as well. So cool stuff. Yeah, you guys have any questions, or is there anything else that I can kind of like help you guys with, or is there anything that I happen to have done that well, yeah, we could do something like that too. We could go into our, yeah, this might be kind of cool. Let's go into the grasslands, and if we go into fills, we have an animated fill here, usually used for like water, but we could totally do something with it here. Maybe do something like this. And let's see, lower down its opacity a little bit, but let's increase its size. Maybe we could make it a little bit smaller. Okay, so let's see here. Just arrived a bit late. No problem. Quick one. What's the tool you use for doing highlights on trees and the top of rocks, etc.? Well, I do several different types of things. Depending on what I'm trying to do for the current element, I will use, and we can kind of jump into one. We just did one earlier, and I can kind of show you a couple of different stuff that we can do. So I'm going to call this one Nightclub, and we'll save this one. I'll actually drag it down here. Let me clear it so its name shows up, so we can grab it for next week. Got lots of cool stuff kind of going on. This is the one that we built today, and I did lots of like highlights and shadows and whatnot on the rocks and things. So I use two different things. One is sometimes I use, and you can see here, here's some highlights with effects layers. So what I'll do is we can create an adjust colors effects layer, create a mask, and then I can mask out areas and then blur that out to whatever extent I want. But what I also do a lot is if we jump over to a stamp tool, I'll use, let me grab that. Drop that in here. I'll use an image, something like this. And what I will oftentimes do is I'll make it a little bit on the yellow side, and I'll lower down its opacity a lot. And then, as you can see here, if I were to stamp this here, I could create some nice little highlights with it. So I do both. Sometimes I paint in my highlights, and sometimes I use and adjust layers and adjust colors. And you can see here, this is where I've created the highlights on those rocks. And here's one that I've did it around here as well. So I do a couple of different techniques depending on what I'm trying to achieve. Oh yeah, great. Yeah, you can those adjust colors are great, and you can do shadows with it as well, right? So if I were to create another effects layer here, and we can go over to our effects tab, we can go down to adjust colors, and I can go in the other direction, right? I can make this a little bit darker. Oftentimes what I'll do is I'll make it in a little bit into the blue area, something like this. And then we just create a mask. And what you can do is you can kind of come in here and then blur that out to create some nice little shadows. Now you might want to have to adjust this because this is a little bit too dark probably. So you might want to do something like 48, 48, and then bring this up to something like 46. And then you can just start to draw in all of these nice little shadows. And if you hold down the Alt key, you can make any shape you want to. And if you do it normally, you get a nice rectangle. And one of the great things about doing it this way is that you have control over like how dark they are, right? So if we want to make that 48 across the board there. And here you can see that adds a nice little element to it. Otherwise, I created like this nice little round element here, this. And if you want to get that, you can get it from the Forge, from the 2019 map module. And that's on the Forge. And that will come with some of these like shadow and highlight images and whatnot that I use. I think there's this one too. Yeah, right? Yeah, no problem at all. All right, guys. Well, I am going to call it here. Unless there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer that. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. I always enjoy this. We made some really cool maps, and we're started this neat nightclub, which I'm excited to finish next week. Make all kinds of like really cool stuff. Add in all that extra stuff. Yeah, have a great week, everybody. Last call for a question. No problem at all, Mossy. Yeah, you too. All right, guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you. I'll be back Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And we usually run till about 5, 5:30, 6 o'clock, depending on what we're doing. All right. Take care, everybody.